In the bustling Yoruba village of Aremo, where red earth met the clear blue skies and the sound of distant drums often filled the air, lived a young man named Akin. Akin was well known in the village for his strength, his skill in the farmlands, and his charm. He had a wide, easy smile that, while many of his peers spent their time chasing girls or gathering under the Iroko tree to share tales, Ada had his eyes on one girl, Ada. Ada was not like the village girls who dressed in colorful Ankara wrappers and danced at the village square during the moonlit festivals. She was a church girl, was a pastor at the village church, and she had grown up under strict Christian teachings. Her family was respected, but also kept a distance from many village traditions, which they saw as unholy. They did not attend the Gungan festivals or the New Yam celebrations. Instead, Akin first noticed Ada at the village stream one early morning. She was washing her clothes, humming a hymn softly as the water flowed over the smooth stones. Her voice was like a sweet melody, and Akin, who had been on his way to the farm, stopped in his tracks. For days, her face and the sound of her voice stayed. "Who is that girl?" he asked his younger sister. "That's Ada, Pastor Samuel's daughter," Bola replied. "But Akin, don't waste your time. She's not like us. She doesn't go to the festivals or even greet the elders properly. They only care about..." Akin was a determined young man. One Sunday morning, he decided to attend church, something he had never done before. The church was a small building made of mud bricks, with wooden benches arranged neatly inside. Ada was seated in the front, singing in the choir. Akin couldn't take his eyes. When the service ended, Akin waited outside, pretending to admire the cassava plants near the churchyard. As Ada passed by with her friends, he mustered the courage to greet her. "Good afternoon, Ada," he said, smiling his broad, confident smile. Ada paused, surprised. Good afternoon," she replied cautiously. "That's Ada, Pastor Samuel's daughter," Bola replied. "But Akin, don't waste your time. She's not like us. She doesn't go to the festivals or even greet the elders properly. They only care about..." Akin began attending church every Sunday, and soon people noticed. Whispers started to spread in the village. "Why is Akin going to church?" some of the elders asked. "Has he forgotten his roots?" But the biggest obstacle came from Pastor Samuel, Ada's father. One evening after church, Pastor Samuel called Akin aside. "Young man," he said, his voice firm, "what is your purpose here?" Akin looked him in the eye. "Sir, I want to get to know Ada. I want to marry her." Pastor Samuel frowned. "Marriage is not just about love, Akin. It is about faith, values, and a shared belief in God. Are you willing to leave behind the old ways and truly follow Christ? Because Ada will not marry a man who dances at the Igungun festival or pours libations at the shrine." Akin was silent. He had never thought of it that way. He loved Ada, but he also loved the traditions of his. Determined to win Ada's heart, Akin began learning more about the church and its teachings. He started attending Bible study, asking questions, and even helping with church activities. At first, the villagers laughed. "See, Akin, the farmer, turning into a church boy." But Akin did not care. He spent more time with Ada, and the two grew close. Ada saw Akin's effort and was touched by his sincerity. However, not everyone was happy. Akin's uncle, Baba Alao, who was the head of the family, summoned him one. "Akin, what are you doing?" Baba Alao asked. "You are the pride of this family. How can you abandon our ways for a church girl?" "I am not abandoning anything, Baba," Akin replied. "I am only trying to follow my heart." "You cannot marry her," Baba Alao said firmly. "If you do, you will bring shame to this family." Akin was torn. He loved his family and respected their traditions, but he also loved Ada deep. One Sunday evening, as the sun set over the village, Akin went to Ada's house. He knelt before Pastor Samuel and Ada's mother. "Sir, I am ready," he said. "I am ready to give my life to Christ and marry Ada. But I also ask for your understanding. I will honor her faith, but I cannot forget my roots. I believe we can build a family that respects both traditions." Pastor Samuel looked at Akin for a long time. Then he spoke. "Faith is not something you do to impress others, Akin. It must come from your heart. If you truly believe, then you are welcome to marry my daughter. But you must show me that you are ready." Akin spent the next few months proving himself. He joined the church choir, helped organize events, and even stood up to the ridicule of his family and friends. Slowly, the villagers began to see his sincerity. On a bright Saturday morning, Akin and Ada stood together in the church, surrounded by family and friends. Akin wore a simple white agbada, and Ada wore a flowing white dress. The church was filled with joy as they exchanged vows. That day, Akin proved that love could overcome any obstacle, even the deep divide between tradition and faith. As they walked out of the church hand in hand, the villagers sang and danced, blending hymns with the beat of traditional drums. After the wedding, life for Akin and Ada was both beautiful and challenging. The young couple moved into a small mud brick house that Akin had built near his family's farmland. It was simple but full of love, with Ada planting flowers around the compound and Ada making sure the thatched roof stayed strong against the rain. Ada insisted that they pray together every morning and evening. She believed it was the foundation of their home. Akin, who was used to waking up at the first crow of the rooster to head straight to the farm, found it difficult "Must we always pray so long?" he asked one morning, scratching his head. "The sun won't wait for us to finish before it rises." Ada smiled gently. "Akin, prayer is like preparing the soil before planting. If we don't do it, how can we expect a good harvest in our life?" Akin's family, however, wasn't as accepting. His uncle, Baba Alao, still believed that Akin had betrayed their traditions. During the annual Yam festival, Baba Alao confronted Akin in front of the elder. "Akin, it is time for you to show where your loyalty lies," Baba Alao said, holding up the carved wooden staff used in the traditional blessing of the yams. "Will you join us, or will you sit with your wife and her Bible?" Akin stood tall and replied, "Baba, I respect our traditions, but my loyalty is to my home and my wife. I cannot turn my back on what I have promised her, but that does not mean I do not honor our way." The elders murmured among themselves. Some admired Akin's courage, while others shook their heads in disappointment. Ada, who had been watching from a distance, felt her heart ache for Akin. That night she told him, "Akin, I never wanted to separate you from your family. Maybe I should have tried harder to understand your tradition." "No, Ada," Ada said firmly. "We are building something new, something that brings both our worlds together. It will take time, but over time, Ada made efforts to connect with Akin's family and the community. During the next Egungun festival, she surprised everyone by attending, though she stood at a respectful distance and didn't. Her gesture softened many hearts, including Baba Alao's. One evening, he called Ada aside and said, "You are a strong woman, Ada." Life wasn't always kind. One year, a terrible drought hit the village. Acid rabbits and 1,000 clients failed to pay their rent. After months and months of hard fighting, the village gave up trying to find work, and instead they saw up a chicken's farm, which was their main source of income, "And I will work harder," Akin replied, though his back already ached from hours of tilling. The drought tested their faith, their patience, and their love. Akin's family suggested he perform a traditional rain-making ritual, but Ada encouraged. One night, As they sat outside their home, staring at the starless sky, Akin said, "Ada, I am torn. I want to honor our God, but I also feel the weight of my family's expectations. What if the rain does?" Ada placed her hand on his. Faith is not about knowing what will happen. It's about trusting, even when the answer is unclear. The rain eventually came, weeks later, drenching the village in a downpour that brought tears of relief to everyone's eyes. For Akin, it was a moment of As the years went by, Akin and Ada became known as a couple who embraced both their differences and their shared values. Ada started a small school in the village, teaching children to read and write. She also shared Bible stories with them, but never forced her faith on. Akin, meanwhile, became a mediator in the village. When conflicts arose, people often turned to him for advice because he understood both the old ways and the new faith. One day, Baba Alao approached Akin with an idea. "Let us create a new festival," he said, "one that celebrates both our traditions and your faith. It will show the younger generation that we can live in harmony." Akin agreed, and together they organized the Festival of Unity. It included traditional dances, prayers, and even songs from Ada's church choir. The entire village came together, and for the first time in years, there was no division. Akin and Ada's story became an inspiration for many in the village. Their children grew up learning to respect both their parents' traditions and one evening, as the sun set over the village, Akin and Ada sat outside their home, watching their "We've come a long way," Akin said, smiling at his "Yes," Ada replied, her voice full of gratitude. "And it was all worth it." Their love had weathered storms, bridged divides, and left a legacy that would be remembered in Arimo for generations to come.